Welcome to Data Domain Virtual Edition, Installation and Configuration. This demonstration covers the deployment of Data Domain Virtual Edition. In Data Domain Virtual Edition, we can deploy a VM from an OVA file. Open the VMware vSphere web client, and in the Home tab, in the Inventory section, select VMs and Templates. Select the data center you want to use for this deployment. Open the Actions menu and select Deploy OVF Template. Select a source OVA file to deploy. Click Local File and then click the Browse button. Navigate to the OVA file you want to deploy and select it. Click Next to continue. Review the details of the package to be deployed. An alert reminds you to accept extra configuration options. Click the box to accept the options and click Next. The End User License Agreement appears. Click Accept and then click Next. Specify the name for the new DDVE instance, in this case, DDVE1, and click Next. In the Select Configuration dialog, you can choose between 4, 8, or 16 terabyte configuration for the capacity you need. For this demo, I will select the 4 terabyte deployment. Click Next. Select a resource where the deployed template will run. The system will validate the chosen resource. Click Next. Select the location to store your files for the deployed template. Click Thick Provision Lazy Zeroed with no VM storage policy and a listed data store that is available. Click Next. The system validates your selection. Configure the networks that the deployed template will use. For this example, I'm going to choose VM network with IPv4 protocol and DHCP IP allocation. Click Next. At this point, your deployment is configured and ready to complete. Review the contents of the configuration and click Finish. The OVF deployment initializes and creates the DDVE instance within the vCenter environment. We'll need to add virtual disk capacity for backup storage. Right-click the DDVE instance, DDVE1, select Edit Settings. In the Virtual Hardware tab, choose New Device, New Hard Disk, and click Add. For this example, I'll set the capacity of the new virtual disk to 200 gigabytes and click OK. The virtual machine configures and adds the new virtual hard disk. Right-click the DDVE instance and select Power On. Wait for the machine to boot up. While the system is booting, go to the vSphere client and select DDVE1 Summary. As the system completes its boot process, the IP address will appear. Select and copy the IP address of the DDVE instance. We will use this IP to access the Data Domain System Manager. Create a new tab in a web browser. In the URL field, enter the IP address you copied for DDVE1 and press Return. The Data Domain Systems Manager login appears. Use the default login and password to access the DDSM. Apply the DDVE license. Click Browse and locate the license file. Click Apply. The configuration wizard appears and asks whether you want to configure the network. Click Yes. Select Manually Configure and modify the hostname to fit your need. In this case, we've changed it to ddve1.datadomain.com. Click Next. In Interfaces, we're going to accept the default settings by clicking Next. Same with the DNS settings. A network summary window appears. Review your selections and click Submit. The network configuration wizard reappears. Click No to proceed to the file system configuration. Click Yes. You need to add a storage device for your virtual system. In Configure Devices, you see the 200 gigabyte drive that we added when we deployed the OVA file. It should be available to add to the Data Domain Active tier. Select the 200 gigabyte drive and click Add to Tier. The device is now added to the active tier. Make sure Enable File System after creation is selected and click Next. Start the deployment assessment. The deployment assessment checks for minimum storage performance criteria for your configured system hosting the virtual data domain system. When the deployment assessment completes, review the assessment summary. If the assessment reports the devices are unsuitable, you may still create the file system, but understand that system performance may be less than optimal and might cause an unstable system. Click Next to proceed. The file system summary appears. Review the summary and click Submit. The file system is created and enabled. When the completed message appears, click OK. When prompted, if you want to complete the system settings, click Quit. You will see a warning that the system configuration is not complete. Click Yes. At this point, you will need to configure the protocol of your choice. With that, your deployment and configuration of a DDVE instance is complete. This completes this demonstration.